It's Reiki, but not as you know it. Well, hello, Martin. It's a
Hello, Linda.
beautiful, beautiful sunny day. A little on the humid side, but I'm embracing it because winter has cycled away, and
Absolutely.
now it's spring and summertime, and everything is just green and fragrant and lovely.
Flowers are out and the birds are singing. It's just
It's a
wonderful.
it is wonderful, and there's no puddles that we need to worry about stepping in.
No puddles, and we're we're full moss.
Yes, full moss. Oh my goodness. Full moss and spreading. It's wonderful.
Don't you
So,
hate it when it spreads to difficult to reach areas?
no, I let them have free reign completely and totally. I honor their presence completely. Well, unlike my neighbor who likes to dig them up, but then I just get more.
Yeah.
Um, because he just chucks them over the fence to my place.
Oh, well, there you go. You see, free moss. Wonderful. What's
So,
your tipple today?
well, in honor of the beautiful warm day, I have a spiked lavender lemonade, which is quite delicious. And ironically, it's a color I really love looking at in the glass, but I would never wear. And it's a beautiful puce.
Oh, lovely. I do love puce. Puce is such a lovely color. And it's such a shame you won't wear it.
Well, you have to understand, I have blue undertones, so puce and blue, I just look alien. It just goes green on me, my skin.
I might have to flap my arms around rather vigorously while we talk in case I knock it over you, and then I can prove that I'll get you wearing puce somehow.
Oh, I see a challenge has been accepted. For now, I'll drink my puce lemon, what did I call it? My puce lavender lemonade, which is sweetened with a bit of honey.
What's it been spiked with?
Something clear that Cornelia tossed in, and I'm not quite sure.
Well, it could be anything if Cornelia's
Yes,
had her
it
way
could
with
be.
it.
So I'm just going to go with it because she hasn't failed me yet.
Exactly, and it's probably best not to ask.
She had a little mischievous grin on her again, so I'll just let it go.
Oh, wonderful. So talking of better not to ask, I've got what's called a trinary tonic.
Oh,
Yeah, it's very unusual. It's like got 3 layers of liquid in it that have all separated into their own little layers.
I was just going to say they're not blended, are they?
No, they're not.
And
They're
and and so do you have to stir and drink, or do you observe and drink layer upon layer?
I think you observe and drink, and the layer that you most need with each sip comes up to meet your lips.
Oh,
It's interesting because there's a lovely sort of white layer, sort of quite milky, and then there's a deep emerald green layer. Not
oh,
looking forward to that one.
oh,
It's a bit kale-like for me, and I can't do kale.
oh, I love kale.
Um, See,
I
if I
also
do
like,
kale, it's like a sprinkler system afterwards,
oh,
both
oh,
ends.
oh.
Sorry, I think that layer made me overshare.
I won't even mention sea veggies then.
Yeah, you might see them more than you want. Moving swiftly on.
Yes. Yes,
And then the
please.
final layer is like, it's like molasses. It's like a very dark, sort of almost black liquid.
Oh,
But
that sounds interesting.
it's lovely. That's the bit that tastes the nicest. I love that layer, whatever that is.
Absolutely. So there's no flames involved.
There's no flames, probably a good thing. Although if that is kale, I could probably put the flames out. So, no flames, just these 3 layers of unusual
Interesting.
liquid.
I like that. Yeah, so I'm assuming somehow this will likewise enhance our discussion.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yes, each layer adding more than the last. I'm
Yes.
sure.
Interesting. And it's only when it's blended within that you fully receive the benefit, I bet.
Absolutely. And if that is kale, everybody else will receive the benefit of it.
Or the other 2 layers will counterbalance
Yes.
and cause it to be more stable.
Well, one can hope, or
Oh no.
purging is good for you.
Oh goodness.
We need to purge now and again.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make sure I deposit you somewhere deep in the woodland realm when you do that.
In the labyrinth. Just go and get lost for a while.
No, because other people may come upon it and I don't want that to happen.
That'll be one surprise too many.
We are so out of control already.
The image of me spinning around like a sprinkler system is one that will haunt you forever.
You have a way of doing that. These visuals that get embedded in my eyeballs, just not good. Oh, what am I going to do with you?
Oh, wonderful. Back with a bang.
Absolutely.
So since I saw you last, Linda, there's been a development here in the tavern. Strange, unusual.
I saw some kind of little announcement as I walked in. It was on the bulletin board that they have by the door. What is that all about?
So apparently they've got a resident band in now.
Really?
That just sort of every so often is going to start playing music.
Interesting.
I wonder if they think we talk too much and they want to shut us up.
Oh, that's a possibility. But we can just get louder.
Oh, we could do. Or sing.
Oh, we could definitely sing and dance if we have to.
On the tables.
So do we know what kind of band it is?
Oh, I think they're quite eclectic.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we're going to get any thrash metal or sort of techno or anything, but...
Okay. But you never know. You never know.
I mean, anything can happen here in the realms.
This is true. And, they might not even be human.
They might not. They could be little brownies. Little tavern brownies.
Oh.
You say "ah," but
I know they could be mischievous
brownies when they're around.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
Yes, but my remedy for them when they get misbehaving is chocolate. And I'm gonna let a little secret out right now that you don't know about me.
Oh.
Get ready.
Go on. I'm
all ears. And I hope you still love me after this.
Always love you, Linda.
I despise, and there's more words that should go with that, chocolate. I know this look you're giving me. I can't tolerate it in any shape or form. I hate the smell. It's brown. Like you're eating brown. That's just, Yes, since childhood, cannot tolerate it. Just, ooh, it's just.
Who are you?
Trust me, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. I know.
What kind of disgusting human being doesn't like chocolate?
Bring it on. I've heard it all. I've heard it all. Yes. And mind you, my family are chocoholics.
Oh, you're polarizing.
Yes. And I do, when my kids were younger and my husband still is a chocoholic, I will bake. I will cook with chocolate. I will provide chocolate because, I won't be the opposite extreme. I don't believe in being extreme. It's not healthy to be extreme.
Now, I have to ask, is this like American chocolate? Or is it
No,
Belgian chocolate?
no, it's all chocolates.
All chocolates.
I've actually had an experience where at one point in time, a family member had an exchange student from Germany, and she brought supposedly the best chocolate in the world. Would not eat U.S. chocolate because it was trash, which I agreed with. And she couldn't. I mean, and of course we were driving somewhere when she opened the package, and I thought I was going to have to get tied to the roof rack because it was just the scent was overpowering for me. But I've been exposed to all kinds. It's like a challenge for people, like, try this. Like, nope. Not happening. Don't even open. You don't even have to open the package. I can smell it.
So I give you strawberries and stuff and say, try this. It's chocolate on it.
I love strawberries, but I wouldn't touch them with chocolate on them.
Well, I mean, I can understand if it was like an American chocolate, no offense, but
none taken.
if I eat American chocolate, it is like, that emoji with the green sick coming out.
Yes, that's how I feel about
chocolate.
Yeah, that's how I feel about all chocolates.
But some lovely Belgian chocolate. If Anka was here today, I could make a request. Send me Belgian chocolate.
She will.
That's how Anka do.
I didn't mean to make this a topic of discussion. But I knew eventually after 14, 15 years, I better tell you.
I shall never look at you the same again, Linda.
I knew that was a possibility.
I have to ask, can you say the word trash again for me?
Trash? Am I saying it funny? Trash?
I always remember being on a flight to North America, and a particular airline that shall not be mentioned ever. Their particular nuance, shall we say, was when they would come down the aisle after many hours of atrocious conditions of flight, and they would have big black sacks
for the vomit bags.
They would walk down the aisle saying trash, trash, trash. But the way that they would make eye contact with all of the passengers one by one as they went down and said trash sort of gave the general oeuvre of being called trash in a really sort of venomous way.
Oh. So it's not about how I say it, it's the trigger that it conjures up in you that.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
I have to say the mode of transportation here to the realms is much more pleasant.
Absolutely.
Unless there's brownies, of course.
You gotta learn how to work with them, I'm telling you. Yeah. Chocolate. Listen.
Green vomit emoji.
I'm happy to give it away.
Well, anyway, look, I think we're going to get our first number from the band. Oh,
Oh,
exciting.
excellent. Look how they're dressed. Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Oh, lovely. And I can see a pole over there. I might go dance.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I don't even know how to respond to that.
Probably best not to. The origination of the realms is something that has happened over many years, happened long, or was happening long before I consciously recognized it was happening. And then when I consciously recognized it, it began to sort of become huge and sort of very prolific in how exploration of the realms became made physical and was represented in different ways to communicate that experience so that other people could recreate that experience and then find their own way into the realms.
Right.
And that very solitary process of doing that was shared once the results were there. So when the stories were created, the media was created, when the realms in digital form were there, people could partake in them and use those as little anchors to create the experience for themselves and then find their own way into the realm from their own perspective. So that was there, but the origination process still remained solitary for me. And what's happened this time is that the origination process has become something in itself that can be shared to demonstrate really sort of the approach that I take towards Reiki modalities and therapy.
Yeah.
Because there's a very sort of specific approach that I take that could be really helpful to other people when they're working with their particular modality of therapy.
Right.
So I think that's a really wonderful opportunity to actually see this area of the realms in its initial forms being explored, and then how I approach that to take that exploration and find ways of communicating it to others.
Right.
So I think in many ways this experience today will be that meta experience of understanding how this exploration takes place and how that becomes reality that other people can work with.
Yes. So the origination process is evolving.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Because the more we're reminded we each are originators, the more expansive growth we can all experience. You know, working within for an external result. You know, in this particular case, the external is the realms where people can journey and experience and find their way.
Definitely, yes. And in many ways, you know, we all have this vast and complex and multifaceted internal experience of the world. Inside of us is this maelstrom of knowledge and wisdom and experience, some of which we are consciously aware of, some of which is subconscious, some of which is even transcendent of us in terms of ancestry and in terms of future echoes, if you like, that are coming forward all the time at us, that we can sort of get a little glimpse of the story or the picture, but we don't really fully understand because it's not here yet in our experience and in our temporal experience. So we have this landscape within, but so few people know how to effectively communicate that landscape. So we go into these long thought of words and that just comes out all the time, sort of diatribes of us clumsily trying to find our way around an effective communication of our internal experience. And when it came to the creation of the media realms, if you like, that was an expression of an internal experience of the realms that people could use to create their own internal experience of the realms. So that mapping process of one's internal experience is really powerful when it's done in a particular way that is very effective in that communication.
Right.
And that is sort of great in terms of this experience, because this area of the realms that we're exploring today came about from the experiences with the Fell Witch and our exploration of the Fell Witch, which to that point was a fairly complete part of the journey. But it wasn't until we were ready to see beyond the Fell Witch and to understand that there could be something beyond the Fell Witch in that particular area that that journey then began to evolve and change, and we began to explore further than we'd been before.
Right.
And I find that really fascinating, because you and I work with the Fell Witch and have done for many, many years, and we're quite accustomed to working with the Fell Witch.
Right. Right.
We're also of a particular ilk of human being that can go there, really. And that's just part of who we are in terms of people and in terms of personality, that we can see this frightening thing that some people would just be really traumatized by, and we go, okay, that's fine, yeah, let's go there, let's do that.
Let's
And
check it out
sometimes,
anyway.
yeah. And I don't know how you feel about that, Linda, but I think for me, in some ways, there is like a desensitization or an insensitivity when it comes to how other people might experience that. It's like so natural to just want to dive down into those visceral, gut-wrenching
Yeah,
moments and just
I don't know if it's desensitizing or something along that line. I think it's when we're comfortable in a situation, it's not that we're not thinking of others, we're just going with it. And it's not until something occurs where it's either a comment or someone gives you feedback on a particular situation, and the film, which is a good one, where we are stopped in our tracks and we consider others. It's not because we've been self-absorbed up until this point. It's a comfortable thing. If we're comfortable embracing darkness or traumatic events, to glean from it something of benefit, there's always a cycle where it's usually an individual making comment where we stop and say, okay, how do we bridge the gap to help others feel not like they want to embrace this and run through it, say, yeah, nothing's bothering me, but to bridge the gap to bring them from separateness to wholeness and saying, we're all part of this journey together. Take a look at it from this perspective. glean from it what you will to benefit yourself and have it progress outward from that point. So I don't think we desensitize. I think we are unaware, just like everyone else. We're not aware of everything.
Absolutely.
Well, we wouldn't be here if we were aware of everything.
Transcendence, yeah.
But I think we all go through a process of being unaware to awareness. And what we do with that, the choice we make, is really the important aspect of the next step, so to speak.
Definitely, yes. And I think in terms of myself, that sharing, it is like a childlike wonder that I have. I am very childlike in how I approach the world. I give everything, I imbue everything with personality and with character, which is why I'm often having whole conversations with inanimate objects that people find extraordinarily fascinating and disturbing in equal measures. But that's just me. I just imbue the world with life. That anthropomorphizing.
That was a good one.
That was a really good one. That one. That approach of sort of being childlike in the world is something that has always been with me, and it's something that I nurture a lot, because I think there's so much that can be gained in the world from having a sense of childlike wonder and having that sort of magic ability that children have, and never losing that. So for me, when I encounter something new and discover something in my own experience that just really is mind-blowingly exciting and transformative, I immediately want to share.
Right.
And in that respect, it is like someone who goes paragliding off a cliff, because if you've done it before and you feel confident doing it, you're quite happy to do it. Someone who's never paraglided off a cliff might feel a little bit different to that and may have a reaction. And the reality is, if it came to paragliding off a cliff, I would definitely have a reaction to that, because no.
and see, I would be, yes.
Yeah. Exactly. We see, so you can do the paragliding. I'll go talk to the
but I talk to the inanimates too, so
yes,
there's no escape.
No, exactly. We're all
Weird
wonderful,
and wonderful
quirky
world we live in.
Yes, exactly. It's our own uniqueness.
Right.
And I think there is that sort of element of the sharing, the just wanting to share. So when something happens within the realms, it's just that wide-eyed wonder of, oh, look at this, isn't this amazing? Right. And sometimes in some areas of the realms, which are very deep acting, almost fundamental in their approach to the level that they're healing on,
right,
that can be overwhelming for people and deeply traumatic and triggering for those people. And when that feed forward comes to us of, this is my experience of that, it's like, okay, so this is not for everyone initially. They may get to a point where it is absolutely for them, but they may need to work up to it rather than just going there. And my experience of the realms is that if there is a place to go there, I will go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will run full pelt to that place, because I just want to experience it. I just like, well, go on.
Right, and I think that's the neat thing about the realms. We start in Roman Nose, and there's other places outside of Roman Nose. So if you think of a cobbled town and all the bustling of people and shops and, vacationers coming in, you want to explore. Some people are perfectly content hanging out in the hotel and just staying and enjoying and go back to life as is. Others want to venture out and say, oh, where does this go?
Absolutely.
And you go to the popular places at first, the places that everyone enjoys.
Yeah.
And then there are places that you go that are dark, that are off the beaten path, that perhaps you encounter some other things that you weren't expecting. But the neat thing about the realms is that you can always go back to what you know. And if you need to recharge or regroup, you can do that there.
Exactly.
But I find the realms there's so many paths within the realms that it is unlimited exploration.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's neat that the discussion we're going to have today revolves around a newly discovered aspect of the
Absolutely.
realm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that entering of a phase when that discovery and that exploration, that pioneering is happening. And we're definitely having a free clinic in Roman Nose.
In Roman Nose.
In Roman Nose, yeah. I think we should call it the Linda Free Clinic, because it was your syphilis that inspired.
Oh, our poor listeners right now are saying, what?
So do you want to do a little bit of explanation before we go on about your syphilis?
Yes, because some of my family members that are listening right now are probably saying, I didn't know. So, no, I do not literally have syphilis. However, thinking about karmic regression therapy and miasms in specific terms, there are various miasms that we all have, whether it's sora, psychotic, syphilis, tuberculin, and more modern times, cancer and AIDS. They all represent dis-ease, potentially in manifestation in the physical, but also a ancestral progression to now. And what I mean by that is, on a cellular level, we contain everything from the moment of day one to now. And my understanding of miasms, which is continually evolving, is that miasms are tools for transformation. And the clinic's a really good idea because sometimes we have ailments, we have symptoms, we have triggers that occur that we think, the sky is falling. The clinic will provide opportunity to not give a remedy to remove something, but a remedy to help you transform what you think is a contractive or dis-ease into something that is expansive. And understanding that miasms are cycles. Miasms are not unlike nature, where summer is about birth and growth, and winter is about death and resting. We don't have a problem embracing that in terms of seasonal cycles. We possess that very same cycle in our own being.
Mm.
And when we embrace all of that, we are able to become much more well-rounded and holistically balanced as compared to thinking of it from an allopathic perspective and saying, oh, we got to get rid of this, so let's cure it, without understanding that there's benefit to having this occur at this moment in time. And that's a tough pill to swallow, no pun intended. And so the clinic is a new realm to be developed, because I'm sure just what I said, which is all I'm going to say at the moment, little crumbs for you all, that will trigger a lot of question. That'll trigger a lot of defiant response. Like, what do you mean? I asked for this? Yes, you did. So with that, the clinic will come up with a much more creative name, because Linda's clinic sounds so blah.
A clinic just for Linda.
Yeah, no, we must be more creative with that one.
I'm sure we will, yes. Yes.
And it won't involve flying monkeys or anything like that, but
And this is definitely a conversational story for another day,
yes,
imminently, I'm sure, around the COVID pandemic and the COVID miasm, which we began to see the need for the miasm appearing before the pandemic in terms of polarization, in terms of how people were becoming so socially and politically polarized and disparate, so antagonistic towards each other. This dynamic needed to be filled.
right. A need for change.
Exactly, yes, a need to stop doing that, basically.
Right, right, right.
And how COVID came into being at that point where it was most needed and has actually increased that. People are even more polarized now, even more disparate, even more antagonistic towards each other. But it's in the exploration of the miasm that
Yes,
there is real power and a real invitation to heal and
yes.
to transform.
The clinic is a perfect place. It
Oh,
really is.
absolutely.
It really is. But I won't be wearing white. I prefer black.
Puce, puce.
Oh, not puce. Oh, gosh, not puce. Oh, that is such, sorry, but that is an ugly color.
all our all our friendly puce wearers in the
Oh,
tavern.
oh, I mean, I guess if you were, you know, trending and fashionable in the 60s, you'd fit right in. But
When we are working with a Reiki modality, for example, in terms of the realms, because the immediate go to traditionally is that when there is some form of disease, it's very often look at the symptoms. If there
yes,
is a diagnosis for that disease, let's treat that, treat the symptoms or treat the disease. And that's
right.
the immediate go to. And for the realm experience and people who are explorers and adventurers within the realms, there is this approach of the environment and looking at all factors within the environment. And the way that we define that environment becomes the foundation for a particular form of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of Roman nose, the Roman nose experience is a particular way of conducting a treatment. You fill that experience with a conscious connection with Reiki, for example, and that creates an environmental life experience where you are treating with Reiki.
Right.
And that to me is extraordinary. The approach of where would this experience of treatment be housed? What would this place be?
Right.
Where in the realms does this exist? And then how do I translate that into a way that other people can understand it, use it, explore it, make it their own,
Right.
and then build that into their own way of treating people
Right.
or
I mean,
themselves?
there's a reason why we call it foundation level. It's a building block. It's a structure, strong and sturdy, that we can capitalize on in a way that helps us be able to springboard as we adventure through.
Absolutely, yes. And the journey towards Roman nose and away from Roman nose, because it has its own history, it has its own future and its own future development. The way in which that has unfolded gives us this treatment methodology of the understanding of this natural experience of the physical world,
Mhm.
our truth, if you like, the truth of nature that exists behind all things, and how, because that is so overwhelming, so vast, so beyond our capability to grasp in its entirety, we go through life and we create the bricks and the cobbles over that thing so that we are developing our own perspective, our own material, real world perspective of that is more effective in terms of our modern lives to use. And in the case of the realms, the digital realms or media realms, every video, every book, every PDF, every audio, every orientation and calibration, audio companion, these are all little bricks and cobbles that are laid over the natural truth, so that people can use them as a way of accessing the natural truth behind.
Right.
And one of those natural truths is the experience of ki, and in particularly in this instance, Reiki. And I love that sort of foundation of, you are using these bricks and these cobbles and these streets and these buildings as a model for your own way of experiencing and sculpting your natural truth into a way that other people can pick that up and use it and work with it in their own way.
Right. It's no wonder we love to stay in the realms.
Yes. All of us are sharing our own truths,
Yeah.
and our own experiences. And it is wonderful to have an environment, an arena to do that. And it is, for me, even more wonderful to experience the truths of others as well. So in that feed forward moment where there is an experience within the realms that somebody has, and they are able to create their own little bricks and cobbles that I can then use to understand and to calibrate towards the orientation they're giving me of those bricks and cobbles, then I can use that as a way of exploring further. And that to me is magic.
Yeah, exploration and inspiration.
Absolutely.
To inspire is wonderful. You're rewarded to a certain degree, but to be inspired by others, it's just such a nice cyclical experience.
Absolutely.
You don't want to just, it's a give and take. I thrive on that. I love to share. You can't help but be eager to share. But on the flip side of that, I love hearing the stories from others. I regardless of what their story is, I embrace it because it helps me evolve and expand.
Absolutely.
And shift my perspective to another facet that was always there, but I just hadn't seen it yet.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a really important aspect to understand, starting from Roman nose and moving into the realms, is this notion of stories and how important they are to humankind. We've always used stories throughout our
more than we
human history.
realize.
Oh,
Much
absolutely.
more than we realize.
Yeah. Everything beyond the basic fundamentals to survive is a story.
Absolutely.
Everything we tell ourselves, from bank statements to what that person said the other day that really upset me, or whatever, it's all story.
Yes.
It's all narrative. When it comes to non-narrative, it's breathing, it's drinking water, it's eating food, it's community, it's shelter and health. Yes. These things are all essential to our survival, but beyond all of those things, it is only story.
Yes.
And it's so fundamental to us that we have evolved into the creatures that we are, with our complex language and social constructs, through story. We got here because of story. And we love story. We are attuned to story in a way that nothing else can affect us so profoundly than a story. And we, as human beings, have come together in the dark ever since we first started creating communities to share stories around the campfire in sort of ancient human history, or at your multiplex cinema in modern human history. We sit in the dark together and we share stories. What I love about the realms, it is a very tangible, media-driven way of sharing our stories and making our own stories within the vastness of the universe beyond, the intangible, the internal experiences and landscapes that we find so challenging, and we find that words are so often so unable to communicate. And that for me is the real power of sort of the digital realms and the media realms, that understanding that these are the bricks and mortar, the houses, the streets that we can use to get what lies beyond.
Right, right.
And so when in childlike wonder, oh, the Fell Witch has told me a story. Let's share.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I've been biting at the bit. I want to hear it all.
And when we go through these moments of sort of sharing, and the feed forward is that this is so deeply effective and traumatic that it needs preparation. You can't just dive in and go that deep in a wanna, and sort of work like that for everyone. Some people can,
Right.
some people can go
Right.
there and they can do that, and they can do some very profound, deep level work. Some people need to test the waters first.
Test the waters, and maybe they need to be at a certain point in their own growth to be
Absolutely.
able to benefit fully. So sometimes when people, and I don't want anyone to think that, oh, that's not for me. Maybe not for you at this time, because everything is beneficial. So I think that's an important point to make, that timing, don't think of linear, think of just where are you at now.
Yeah.
And if you can embrace it, great. If you need time to wait, or it triggers something where you think, oh my goodness, this is awful, take a step back. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when we look at this non-temporally, when we overcome our addiction to time, which we all have, we can approach these experiences within the realms and know that at some point, that healing synthesis, that growth, that evolution, that transformation is taking place. And at a point in time, in the temporal experience, that we will reach that point. It will happen.
Oh, absolutely. Because, it's funny that it's so often I hear from students who've gone through the material, regardless of what it is, whether it's within the realms, whether it's an audio, whether it's a video, whether it's, the books, and they'll revisit a realm and they'll say to me, that wasn't there before. Or, I didn't read that last time. Why is that? And it's exactly pointing to what you were just describing. It is there when you are ready in all aspects to receive that as like nourishment. If you're ready, you'll eat it and benefit from it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it is extraordinary in terms of how, as complex, imperfect human beings, we are this humdrum of biases, that our particular perspective of the world is created by shutting out certain aspects of the world around us. So we take certain things in, but those things that don't equate with the things that we're familiar with or accustomed to or comfortable with,
fly.
they go. And we don't even know that we're doing that.
Yes.
And it's not until we chip away at those biases and just change them ever so slightly and create a little crack of light, that a new beam of light will come in and illuminate something that we didn't see there.
How Fell Witch is that?
Exactly. Yes, definitely. And there is this sort of element of, when people go through the realms, their biases will imprison them within a particular perspective. And they will go through the realms exploring everything from that perspective with all of their biases engaged.
Yeah.
But as part of the process, a particular bias, for example, will be warping slightly, changing, just letting in a little bit more light, so that by the time they get to the end of that journey, the biases are so warped and there's so many other beams of light coming in that when you go back and do it all again, all this other stuff is illuminated. It
Right.
was there in the
Right.
text. It was there in the videos and the audios
Right.
and in the
Exactly.
overall
Exactly.
experience. But the biases shut it out. And
Right.
it's not until that bias was affected in some way that we could see beyond it. And
Right.
that's where the real power is. So in terms of the Fell Witch, sort of my particular bias around that was that this is fantastic, bring it on. Here is a story from the Fell Witch, and I want to share this story because I just think this is amazing. And the bias that I was working from there was that this story that I was being told by the Fell Witch was very triggering and could be really problematic for some people.
Right.
And for me, this feed forward is extraordinarily powerful because the experience of understanding that there's something more that I was biased against and I just didn't see because of my own personal biases triggered a whole methodology of mine, which is everything we have exists in polarity. So in our internal experience of the world, there is very little polarity. So something that is inside of us that we've never verbalized or expressed into the world, it just is. It's just a truth that exists within us. The moment we speak of it, we express it into the world, or we present it in some way, some creative way, for example, the world comes up to meet it and polarity is created, the equal and opposite reaction to the thing that has been expressed. And this is challenging. It is really challenging because when you have this truth that you expressed into the world, and then suddenly a whole horde of people
come rushing at you,
come rushing at you with a different, completely contradictory message.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And particularly in our modern world where there is so many avenues that people can throw their little verbal grenades at you.
Yeah.
That it's not a two-way street. They can literally throw a grenade at you, which is like, bang, there you go. And there's no way you can come back to that. You can't interact with it. It is just there.
Yeah.
And that can be particularly challenging when that happens. So if somebody creates a polarizing effect to something that is your truth and your experience of the world, and they polarize against it, but you can't respond to it, there's no real way of actually sort of coming back and saying, well, let's talk about this or let's have a conversation. They just say their piece and then slam the door behind them. So you're left with
They
those
hit and
words.
run.
The hit and run, exactly. When that happens, that can be incredibly challenging, really upsetting and deeply scarring.
Yes.
When that happens. So the understanding of polarity is really important because what we can do is that we can create internal polarity. So in that wonderful world of swirling truths within us, we literally polarize ourselves to create an internal polarity. And then when we present that to the world in its lovely polarized form, the world doesn't have to come up in polarity to it. What the world does instead is create stability with it. So it comes in to create a third factor. Here's my polar opposite that I'm giving to the world.
Right.
And here is a third factor that comes in and creates a stable structure to it. So it's nowhere near as volatile.
Right.
Or
it doesn't completely eliminate. However, if you think in terms of balanced polarity within, what is presented outwardly structurally will be more sound. So even
Absolutely.
if something does come, it'll be so minute because the opposing force will be part of the structure
Oh yeah, absolutely.
rather than against the structure.
Definitely, yes. And again, going back to biases, if somebody is particularly biased towards one of the poles in your polarization, they will polarize against the one thing that they can see
Right.
and be completely and utterly non responsive to the other end of the pole.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, of course, is that other people look at that and say, hang on a minute, what about that there?
Yeah.
And then it will become really obvious that it's a bias that this
Yeah.
person, under no circumstances, is ever going to accept
Right.
that is their reality. And in many ways, they have every right to do so. So
Right.
that's
Right.
their experience of life and their perspective. But by creating an internal polarization, you are negating as much as possible.
Right. And you're preparing yourself to be able to continue to move forward rather than being taken out at the knees.
Absolutely, yes.
That doesn't mean you won't, feel a little caught off guard or feel a little taken aback. But when you can structurally present yourself in a way that your story comes out in solid form.
And the wonderful thing with knowing about polarization and turnerization, so creating a polar experience or a duality, and then adding a third factor to create a ternary, if you know that experience and you know how to do that, that can really help you, because when you land upon a truth within yourself that you want to express, knowing that there will be a polarizing effect as soon as you put that out into the world, you can, to a certain extent, negate a lot of the challenges with an internal polarity and then put that out there. And one of the things that is really interesting is that the Fell Witch exists as part of a structure. She is within the realms in an intricate, interwoven structure and framework of this environment that we navigate in terms of our therapy. And with that experience there, the Fell Witch sits in perfect harmony with everything around her. When we take the story of the Fell Witch, and place that outside into the world in its own right, suddenly there is no polarization in
Yes.
that story. So the world comes up to meet it. And this was fascinating for me because the moment that we saw the real world experiences around that particular aspect of the realms, for me, my instinct was I've not seen something in the realms. I need to go find, I need to go explore.
Yes. Yes.
And the moment I started exploring within the realms, a whole new aspect of the Standing Stones realm
Yes.
opened up to me. A whole new area with a whole new ethos and knowledge and wisdom and environment for me to explore.
And
And
amazingly was there all along.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just hadn't found it.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And this is the wonderful thing that, over the years we've encountered with the realms time and time again. The realms are there in their current form, but it is in the interaction of other people that things are seen that we never knew were there.
Right.
They've been there the whole time. They
Right.
are there right now, just waiting to be found.
Yes.
But it's not until somebody either goes there and finds it for themselves, or buffets up against the polarization of an aspect of the realm.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when they buffer up in that polarization and they immediately polarize against it, that is like a huge, very loud statement that says there's something here. Go look, go explore. And those explorations are always so extraordinary because they do reveal themselves in their entirety. And then it's a question of processing over days and sometimes weeks or months, processing all of that knowledge, that little meme bomb that you get, which sort of just explodes, and it's like, wow. And that sort of huge memeplex of that particular area of the realms then takes time to process and even more time to actually recreate in terms of media. So this happening through the podcast experience and through our meetings here in the tavern is extraordinary, because what it can do is give us an insight into how the realms, in terms of the natural truth of the realms, is taken and put into different forms so that we can communicate it. And the polarization of the Fell Witch revealed itself to be what we initially call the two stones. And we've had conversations about the two stones, Linda, and talked about them and the experience of them in terms of this new aspect to the realms. What is extraordinary is, as the story unfolds, as that memeplex of knowledge and environment begins to float down into consciousness, as it were, more layers of the story open up, and it becomes more tangible, more real. So very much part of that process now for me is developing these experiences and these layers of experience into the stories that then will become part of the realms and the home experience, so that people can take this new environment, this new area, and fill it with their own experience and their own treatment methodology and their own conscious awareness of Reiki and the other modalities that we use within the realms. So they are literally creating these very complicated and complex, deep acting environments of therapeutic force. And so, beginning this journey from the Fell Witch, we travel across the moor of the Standing Stones realm, and we come across a small pike, which is like a little mountain, shall we say. This is a particularly little mountain across the moor, more like a little sniffle. In an ocean of flatness. But as we explore this little pike, we see that sprouting from the pike is a natural spring. And this is the spring of Axiom. The spring of Axiom sheds its water. The water flows out and trickles down the sides of the pike. And particularly, it's eroded one area of the pike where the water now flows down, a little bit like a waterfall, onto a big stone. And this stone is the first stone that we actually meet. And it's a dark, dark granite, black granite. But because the water from the spring is flowing down its face, it looks like obsidian. And it creates this huge black mirror that we look into. And so when you're standing by the pike and you look into this mirror, you see yourself in the darkness, and you see this reflection of yourself that is distorted by the rippling of the water as it flows down the edge of the spring. And this experience of looking into the mirror is very much about one's personal relationship with oneself. But unlike the Fell Witch, which is this experience of communing with the Fell Witch and going to one's deepest, darkest areas, the places within oneself that cause us real pain and real trauma, the stuff that we've buried and suppressed. This mirror is a reflection of things that we use to distort the darkness. It is the elements of ourselves that we take on to create a more acceptable image of ourselves. And in many ways, this experience is what the world tells us, how we are told to conform, how we are told to be a certain way, how we often are nervous or we have trepidation around truly expressing ourselves and who we are in the world, how we fit, how we were born to be. And many a traveler has ended up becoming so transfixed in this dark mirror that they end up just standing there looking in it, gazing at themselves, adoring themselves in this distorted form as it trickles down. And that is where the journey ends for so many people. They just stand there transfixed, haunted by this distorted image of themselves, somehow in awe of it and feeling accepted by the world because of it and feeling loved by the world because of it, but all the time trapped by the lie that it creates. So it is the distorted self that this stone causes. And this is the Shugi. The name of the rock is the Shugi, the shadow. And it is the shadow of the self. When the traveler wakes up to the idea that they are distorted in this obsidian mirror and realizes that there is more than this, that there has to be more than this, they tend to explore further. They turn away from this distorted image of themselves and they seek the axiom, the truth of the spring water. And as they explore, they find that there is a way to get behind Shugi and into an immense cavern within the pike, where the axiom waters flow down from across every surface and from the roof of the cavern down upon two magnificent stones. And these two magnificent standing stones within this cavern are where the treatment begins. And we work with the experience of Reiki, for example, to create a treatment experience with these two stones and with Shugi as well, because Shugi is what creates stability. That ability to always go back to the distorted self is always an option for us. And to a certain extent, we are all addicted to our distorted selves. Mm-hmm. So the temptation is always to go back and to sort of go there because it's an easier version of ourselves for the world. What these two stones do is they create a sense of reality in who we are, but in the most profoundly beautiful way, where they literally are a celebration of the life you were born to live, mm-hmm. whether that be in line with the life that you are living or a life that you never thought you deserved or were capable of. And what I really love about these two stones is how the Fell Witch is very much about going to our deepest trauma. And these two stones are about going to our deepest love or our greatest love, and the experience of what it is to be completely loved. And it is a really joyous, amazing, if what somewhat hidden experience, because in so many ways the pike represents the external and the internal, what's outside and what is inside. And these two standing stones exist within us. And so by working with them, we are exploring our internal celebration of our life and our love. And the stones give us a way to change the distortion in Shugi. So, in that respect, we stand by one of the stones in particular, the Yod, the earth. And this is it's a beautiful granite stone that is covered in moss. So it has this wonderful moss, and probably tardigrades are in there too. I go cuddle them. I'm obsessed. You go and you stand with Yud, the earth, and have this experience of becoming one with the the earth self, the self that you were born to be, that everything that has ever happened in this reality of the earth and of our human history and beyond has all come together, interwoven and aligned to create this single experience right now with the earth stone Yod, and to give you that sense of true self, of your own axiom, and in preparation to work with the third stone, the Vardorga. And the Vardorga is a sense of what some people might term as their soulmate. It's a very established, somewhat shugi term for what the Vardorga represents, but it is that experience of an external validation, love, a celebration of your life that we all sort of have within us. We all harbor within us this longing for this experience of life and love and celebration that is so rarely validated within the world. And most of us are at the point in our lives where we don't even think about it. We've suppressed it so much and hidden it away in such deep ways that actually we've forgotten that we deserve to be loved. We've forgotten that our lives have real meaning and that every single moment that we are alive is a celebration of our life and our love. And the Vardorga helps us to experience that in this external polarizing way, whereby standing in Yud, in the earth, and working with Reiki in terms of the Vardorga, we experience this synthesis of who we are and this celebration of love. And we literally, the treatment method is literally about personifying the Vardorga. So you give the Vardorga persona, and it is a persona that comes from very deep within you. It is like your wildest dreams, your deepest desires, something that the world has no place in. It is just yours. And it is the experience of your love and your life, how you want it to be. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if that involves a who, it is whomever you want it to be in your deepest desire, regardless of what the world would say or who the world thinks that you should be with. So that might be your personification of the Vardorga, or it could be your relationship with yourself and how you feel about yourself and how you want to feel about yourself, as opposed to how the world sees you or feels about you. And in this sense, working with the Vardorga enables us to explore that validation and to know what that experience is like, so that we can start to bring it into the world and start taking it from inside the pike to outside, because the moment we experience it, we can then bring that experience out into the world.
Right. That's an amazing story. That is really amazing. Tell me the name of the, what did you say, Shugi?
So it's the shugi, yes, the shadow. When I first started to explore, I looked completely past shugi. I didn't experience shugi at all. I went straight to the two stones, and that is my thing that I was talking about earlier. About I just go straight to the core
Right,
of the matter.
right.
Let's not muck about. Let's get. I don't care about the distortion the world gives us. I want to go straight to the
Yeah,
truth,
yeah.
straight to the axiom,
It's
and that's
reverse engineering.
yeah, exactly. So I will always go, and that when I'm working with clients, that's what I'll do. I go
Yeah,
straight for the core
yeah.
issues. So for me, the core was these two stones within the pike, and that was what was interesting. Shugi came later when I started to meander around and was like, oh, there's a great big rock here that looks like obsidian but isn't obsidian.
Yeah.
It's a sort of granite-like stone that's very black, but it's the water of the axiom that is
The
running
cause and
down it.
effect. The cause
Yeah,
and effect of the external
and
influences.
it is that sense of it's through the distortion of the world's truths that we can see in juxtaposition our own truths, because
Right.
when the world tells us this is who you are, this is how you should be, whether that be, for example, Linda, you as a woman have this role in the world,
Yeah.
and there may be bits with that you have aligned with, and there may be bits of that you go absolutely not.
Yep.
But it is not until that world's axiom has been put upon you and distorts you in ways that you go, actually, that don't feel right. There's something
No.
about that clothing that has been
Yeah.
put on me.
That's not me.
That's
Right.
not me.
Yeah.
And it is through that distorted image that we can sometimes glimpse the truth
Yes.
and sort of see the dreams that exist behind.
Because we do try them on.
Oh, absolutely.
We,
Yeah.
we do try them on and say, oh, maybe. And then, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. When you try them on, it might be like putting on puce,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And as I love to wear pew, so but that's the thing, is that very often, sort of in terms of historically, well, I'd say modern history, me wearing puce would be quite an oddity. I'd get some definite looks. A couple of hundred years ago, like Regency period, it probably wouldn't have
been so
been
shocking.
so.
Yeah.
But that is the distortion of this world's truth,
Yes.
this shugi mirror, which is it basically takes whatever the world thinks at that particular point,
Yes.
whatever voices are shouting the loudest at that
What
point.
definition does it hold today?
Yeah.
Yes.
What box should we put you in?
Yes.
Based on these factors. And it is the distortion that is created by that box that enables us to understand where we don't quite fit in the world.
She just made a point that kind of ties us back to the Fell Witch, but brings us into a different perspective. That box also does not allow for light to reflect.
No.
And
Exactly.
so it becomes very muted.
Absolutely, yeah. And in the same way that with the Fell Witch, we suppress our trauma.
Yeah.
In terms of the pike and the spring of axiom, we suppress our truths.
Yes.
And Shugi really symbolizes that suppression of truth and the distortion that sits over it. And that to me is extraordinary, how in so many ways these three stones are so paradoxical to the Fell Witch and yet so deeply intrinsically connected.
Yes.
That creates this extraordinary polarity between them, that when we interact with them, in terms of the Fell Witch and in terms of the Spring of Axiom, we create this ternary, this three-factored experience of the Fell Witch, the Spring of Axiom, and our own position with these two different experiences.
It's phenomenal. It provides a solution rather than a remedy.
Absolutely.
They're so different. It's so different. We're not suggesting this will fix everything.
Yeah.
It is a matter of embracing all of who you are.
Yeah.
In its darkness and its light.
Absolutely.
And being able to have the appropriate tools and experiences within the realms to be able to take that one more step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is also remarkable in terms of the relationship between the Fell Witch and the Spring of Axiom is this sense of how the world treated the Fell Witch, and how that experience was so deeply traumatizing and ultimately destructive, but through that destruction became so empowering of the Fell Witch, and how she was enabled to help others through that empowerment, and how now she can help others to own their trauma and become defiant and strong and powerful because of their trauma. It makes them stronger, and it makes them powerful within the world. And in the same way that she had that experience, we all experience this diminishment of our own truths in the pursuit of fitting in with the current truth of the world, or the current perspective of the world. And the moment we step behind that mirror into this cavern and we begin to explore a personification of that truth, we bring into being feelings that we maybe lost years and years ago, things that we never thought we would feel again within ourselves. And it is remarkably empowering and strengthening and toning how connecting back into those feelings that we had when we were more optimistic, and when we, before the world got to them, and being able to experience those things again is so strengthening for us. But it gives us that sense of being able to know what that really means.
Right.
Because we don't know what it means until we've literally gone in there and really
experienced it.
Yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful.
Extraordinary.
I want to go back.
I know. So, and this is the wonderful thing as well, is that from the moment that connection is made, just expressing it, just talking about it in terms of our conversation, is in so many ways an orientation.
Yes.
To that part of the realms. So
no question.
Absolutely.
No question.
Yeah. So just by us having this conversation, we are presenting everyone who is listening to us with a way of calibrating. Yes. So if you are accustomed to calibration, you can calibrate immediately to that and find that place within the realms. For those who need a little bit more guidance and a little bit more help on that journey, the next mission for us is creating that experience of the realms in media form, giving people little stepping stones, little bricks and cobbles that they can use to walk the path to get to that place. Yeah. And so taking this experience and the environment that experience exists within, and then turning that into these magical digital realms that people can then explore and work with more formalized orientations and calibrate with those to actually get to this experience for themselves.
Right.
I just love that. I love this thing that some people can get there straight away. Some people need a little bit more help, and we can do that.
But I think it's also important to mention that this is active participation. You're
Absolutely.
not just sitting there
Yes.
letting the water pour all over you.
Yeah.
Um, it's an active participation in the orientation. It's staying alert, it's being aware, it's trying to glean as much of the nuance as you can glean at that moment
Yeah.
as the orientation takes place. And even once that aspect of the realm has been discovered and created, it is active participation in journeying that path.
Yeah, definitely.
It is not about that cool water running over your head and ta-da.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to get from one point to the other. And there are tools and methodology within the realms that you and I both offer
Yeah.
that will help, but we can't do it
Absolutely.
for you.
No, and that's a really important point, because every aspect of this is a very proactive
Yes.
and self-accountable process, in as much as the calibration itself is a proactive process. You're not meditating or drifting
No,
off or going off
no.
into an altered state of being. It is a very methodical and precise process.
It's engaged.
It's
You
and
are
it's
engaged.
completely
Yeah.
engaged, yeah, where you're completely engaging with calibrating to this orientation. But even when you are in that experience of the realms, again, we come back to this idea of when it is internal truth, when it's just swirling around inside of us, it is just it's just truth. It's what it
Right.
is. But the moment you take that truth and start doing anything with it,
Yep.
it will polarize. So it's a proactive process of actually finding ways to represent that truth in your life, because it's all very well, it's swirling around inside of you and you believing that that's what you're entitled to. It's not until you actually start bringing that into the world and
Right.
proactively, physically, tangibly making it a
Do
reality.
something with it.
Exactly. And this is why I recommend, that in terms of, for example, Celtic Reiki seership, you're using this experience creatively. So whether that be creating artwork or sculpture or collages or macrame or knitting garments that represent this, or whether it be journaling and actually putting your experiences down in very real ways,
Right.
creating essences and working in your physical environment, creating this experience within your home,
Right.
until you start taking those swirling truths inside yourself and putting
And
them into the
manifesting
world.
them outwardly. Yes.
Absolutely, yes. What you're doing in that process is that when you have the experience of the spring of Axiom, it is a creative vision. It is a
Mm-hmm.
possible reality. And the very fact that you can have that creative vision means that it does exist
Yes.
somewhere at some time.
Right.
It exists. The challenge for you at that moment is holding that creative vision whilst doing the work in the real world to make the real world mirror the creative vision, so that the two become one.
Right.
So many people who have creative visions, who have their truth swirling around inside them and keep it in, find that the real world, air bunnies again, makes them dumb down that image for the
Or
truth.
insignificant. They,
Oh,
there there's so many reasons why we don't reveal our internal truth.
yeah, we see it as less than.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say that most people live a lie to a certain extent. And that's why this journey is so important, to find that truth within you and to know it, so that even if you are living authentically and living your most authentic self, you can still be aware of those little nuances that can be tweaked.
Yeah.
And if you go in and you find actually this is completely not the person I was born to be, then you can hold that vision and take action in the world until the world mirrors the vision,
Right.
as opposed to basically taking the vision and making it conform to the world. I think that is the greatest tragedy of life and of love, is when we take a truth that is intrinsically our own
Right.
and we make it conform to how the world believes that that should be.
Right.
The world won't thank you for it.
No.
It'll just ignore you for it.
Right. Right.
Okay.
I'll
So
tell you, when you were telling the story, I was holding on because, I was there. I was there. I could smell it. I could feel it. I could feel the moisture in the air, even though it is humid here today. But there was a coolness to the cavern, and a sheen to it. And the moss, oh my goodness. The moss was thick and deep.
Yeah. And full of tardigrades.
Yeah.
Little 6-inch size tardigrade that you can name and take home as pets when working with orientation. It's like a tsunami of power, that when these environments are being born into the world for the very first time, they are like this immense, overwhelming power.
Powerful. Yes.
And it hits with an initial force that's so strong. You really have to sort of hold on to yourself.
You do. You really. I mean, that puts the term grounded. No, you need to have some. Not a 20-pound weight for your balcony umbrella. You need a 50-pound weight, because that umbrella is going for a flying leap otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the thing with the calibration process, is that when we are calibrating, sometimes that experience can come in so powerfully that we shut off from it.
Yes.
Because usually when something comes at us with that amount of force, we're like, oh no, okay, I'm not even gonna.
Right. And to give you a real life example, I'm sure you've heard this as well. Many students, when they're in a place in their own space where they participated in an orientation, and it's powerful, they're all powerful, but it's powerful to hit exactly where it is needed. Some students who are not there yet, not ready, fall asleep. And that's not wrong. It's just where they're at the moment. And sometimes I kind of step back and just kind of chuckle, saying, yep, well, try it again. You're just not ready yet. But when you are, make sure you hold on.
I think where the edge for me comes in is that I've heard so many trainers, practitioners say, oh, don't worry about it. It'll all be doing what it needs to do.
Yeah, no. This is about active participation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think by saying that, it completely disempowers the person. It takes away any sense of personal accountability, of it is my role in this
My
to
responsibility.
calibrate. Yeah, my responsibility to be proactive in my calibration, to take this overwhelming force that is about to pound me around the face like a wet fish, and to do it in such a way that it becomes measured, and that I can open myself up enough and be focused and conscientious enough to actually learn and experience and integrate and grow and notice the incongruities and where I need to work and what it's bringing up for me. And if there's something that's blocking me at any point, and where this is leading me. All of those different elements of the calibration process are so important. And when someone falls asleep, because they're just not quite there yet, to hear someone who is in a training responsibility turn around and say, oh, well, it's all just happening. That to me it's an abuse of responsibility on behalf of the trainer, because
Yeah,
it is their responsibility to empower their students, not to say, oh no, that's okay, no, I'm going to disempower you, just don't do anything.
but isn't it true also that they are no different than the rest of us? We're
Oh
following
yeah,
the definitions of the world. Oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, you're stressed enough.
yeah,
It's okay. Reinforcing contractive elements rather than encouraging and nurturing to give the student empowerment to be able to take that next step when they are ready.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I mean, certainly, when I talk about the edge that comes in me, it's not blame. I don't think I ever
oh
blame them,
no, no,
because I
no, no.
absolutely get how overwhelming the world can be, and
Yeah,
how forceful it can be to beat you down if you attempt to stand against it in any particular way.
right.
Sort of plenty of lessons learned there.
Yeah,
But for me, the edge comes from a real motivation to to create change for the
yes,
trainer as well. And this is
yes,
this is
yes.
where one therapy sort of, in terms of a professional training modality and experience, has come in, because I think so many people, in terms of training and in terms of positions of mastery, have just been indoctrinated into this very passive
Mm,
way of not really honoring the power of
right,
Reiki and the other
right.
modalities that we work with. These forces are immensely powerful. And yes, there is this sense of intelligence and sentience, and they do what they do.
Yeah,
But when you take on the personal responsibility to work consciously with them and
right,
proactively with them, and to challenge yourself
right,
in that position of mastery, to never be content with where you're at,
right.
and to always understand that the more you learn, there is so much more to
So
learn.
much
It's
more to
exponential.
know. you know,
and,
and
and
and I was thinking of this, as you were talking about how fortunate I feel personally to be part of the realms and being immersed in it, because I not only have learned foundationally, structurally, giving it that secure foundation, I now at this point have practical application in my day to day, which constantly reinforces. It's such a wonderful cycle of learning, digesting, absorbing, sharing, because you do want to share this. You want people to be actively engaged. I'm actively engaged. I want them to be actively engaged as well. I'm not here with a magic wand saying, there you go, you're
yeah,
done. It doesn't work that way.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
illusion. It's a lie.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's the obsidian, the granite camouflaged that gives you the prettiness of obsidian. You've got to look beyond that. You've got to go within and see. It's the active participation, and it's such an ongoing, wonderful spring of renewal and expansion and learning more, because you're spot on. Just when you think you've got it, you realize you know nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is the extraordinary thing that happens in so many walks of life, so many professions, so many experts, authorities in fields, just so many people have this same modality of working, in as much as they will learn something or get some information and think, I know that, and they'll
That's
shut it
it.
down
Yes.
immediately. They pay so little heed to this value that they've been given, but they are quite prepared to start talking about that thing like they are an authority in it. And this is what I find with so much Reiki modality training, so many of the Reiki modalities have this very quick day, if you're lucky, 2 days, if you're really lucky, training. And then there is this sense of you know it all. I've been working with Reiki modalities for decades now, hundreds of them. And every passing experience that I have exponentially grows how much there is to know.
Yes.
And the difference is that when people throw this cursory glance at the Reiki modalities, think they know it, either shut it down and become skeptical to it without really experiencing it, or think that's it, I'm now an expert in this, I'm a master and I can teach people. It basically creates this contractiveness and this repetition of not really valuing. The flip side of that, of course, is the people who do know a lot, who are taking personal responsibility. And when they see how much there is to know and how with everything they learn, it grows how much there is that they don't know in front of them, they get into this imposter syndrome where it's like, I don't know, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough. And it shuts them down from actually sharing their truth because they see how much there is and how much they don't know. And my sort of rule of thumb there is if somebody feels that they're not good enough or they don't know enough because they see how much there is to know, providing they're taking personal accountability and a proactive path in learning and growing, they are in the prime position to teach and to work with others and to help others and be a practitioner of others and a consultant with others, because they are the ones who realize how much there is to this. And that's how I feel all the time.
I was just going to say, were you just saying that to me?
I say it to everyone who's listening, because that's how I feel. I can reach into a very long history of working with Reiki modalities and other healing modalities. I have a vast experience of that, and I still feel like a complete beginner. I feel insignificant in terms of how much there is.
But the joy of it is, those of us that are in that definition, lack of a better word, we also have the joy of wanting to share what we do know.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, even though maybe the scales will kind of balance back and forth, because it is an internal dialogue that you have to constantly perfect your polarity within. But the joy, the outcome, the joy of sharing, like, hey, do you know what I just figured out? Or, I do that all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like salvation for me. It's like, my head's not going to explode. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it right now.
And to take this sort of full circle in many ways, coming back to stories, I think in terms of working with this origination and creation process, of having this common tongue that we develop in terms of environmental framework and how we structure these powerful treatment methodology elements into a story or into a narrative. And then we share those. We share this experience through media, through creation, through artistry, through treatment and healing experiences. The way that we do that takes us right back to those very early humans who gathered around the campfire and shared stories. And whereas these days we can enjoy a story at the multiplex and sometimes even be really emotionally moved or inspired by that story, we begin to see the power in the orientation calibration process around our community in the same way as those ancient humans did when they told stories around the campfire. They weren't just stories. they were powerful and impactful and insightful
They
in
were
ways.
life enriching.
Life enriching, yeah, absolutely. They underpinned how people survived. It
Yes,
gave them the knowledge that they needed to
absolutely.
live.
In all aspects. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we are really coming home in that respect, coming back to Roman nose and finding a way of sharing our truth, our axiom with each other
Yeah.
in ways that aren't just words. They go way beyond words,
Right.
to the point where another person can literally experience their own perspective of your world, of your truth,
Right.
in ways that language could never truly communicate.
Right. Absolutely.
And a lovely fluffy tardigrade to every skeptic in the world.
Oh my goodness. And if you want, you may take two.
Absolutely. We'll give them little name badges, and we'll tell them stories all about love and compassion, and then give them.
And set them off.
And I want a fluffy tardigrade to be my little familiar on my journeys through the realms. You know they're coming now, don't you? You know.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do.
It was the great tardigrade plague of the city of Roman nose.
Oh no! Oh no!
Wow, it's been wonderful here today in the tavern.
It absolutely has been. It gets better and bigger and more multifaceted every time we come and visit. It's a wonderful thing.
It is, isn't it? It's wonderful. And the movie length. I mean, it's like we sit here in tavern and create movies.
Yes, we do. We do. We are because we're storytellers. It just makes me even more excited to think about Roman nose and the exploration that's coming, that we will literally be able to invite others to journey with us as it happens live.
Yes, and in person, sort of.
In person, sort of.
And with tardigrades. Yay!
Yes.
Lovely. And on that note, Linda, I think it's time to scurry back off into the realms. I'm going to go back and visit the Spring of Axiom right now.
Yes, I may join you. I may take a different path because I may want to revisit the Fell Witch again, just to have that different perspective, and then go back to the two stones. Interesting, very interesting.
So until next time, Linda, when we meet again here in the tavern,
be enchanted.
Yay!
You've been listening to the It's Reiki But Not As You Know It podcast, hosted by Martin Pentecost, originator of One Therapy, and Linda Hadzinski, guide and companion to the One Therapy community. Find out more and to join in the conversation at onetherapy.com. one-therapy.com. It's Reiki, but not as you know it.